"Don't cry in front of the board, Emily, it's embarrassing." The words cut through the glittering room like glass. Jason Carter's voice carried across the long dinner table, sharp and cold. He sat there, the multimillionaire CEO everyone feared, as his wife, pale and trembling, tried to hide her shaking hands. The waiters froze mid-step, the clinking of silverware stopping as silence swallowed the room. Emily forced a weak smile. "I wasn't crying, Jason. You were crying," he interrupted, his tone clipped. "You think pity gets you anywhere in my world?" His voice lowered, but everyone still heard. "If you can't handle being my wife, maybe you shouldn't be here at all." A single tear rolled down her cheek. She stood slowly, the lights from the crystal chandelier glinting off her wedding ring, a ring that once meant love, now just a symbol of control. "One day," she whispered, "you'll remember these words, and I hope they break you the way you've broken me." Jason scoffed, turning back to his wineglass, dismissing her like a bad investment. But what he didn't know was that Emily had already begun recording something, a message that would one day reach him after she was gone, a message that would tear down everything he thought he knew about power, love, and forgiveness. Because sometimes the truth doesn't come while we're alive. It comes when it's too late to apologize. Before we begin this emotional story, tell us in the comments from which city you are watching, and don't forget to leave your like to keep following us. Jason's voice sliced through the quiet hospital suite. "No, I'm not postponing the merger, because my wife decided to get sick," he said coldly into his phone. The chandelier above him spilled gold light over his crisp white shirt and the Rolex on his wrist. Across the room, Emily lay motionless on the bed, her face pale against the pillows, eyes half open but distant. "Jason," her voice was barely a whisper, "could you not talk about me like I'm some business inconvenience?" He sighed, irritation flickering across his features. "I'll call you back," he muttered, hanging up before the voice on the other end could answer. He turned toward her, the glow of the chandelier hardening the lines of his face. "You asked for this room, Emily. You're getting the best doctors in New York. The least you could do is stop making me feel guilty for taking a call." She shifted weakly, glancing toward the velvet curtains and polished gold furniture. "I asked for this room because you said you wouldn't come if it looked like a real hospital. You said fluorescent lights make you feel poor." He flinched. "Don't twist my words." "I don't have the strength to twist anything," she murmured, a thin smile fading as quickly as it appeared. For a brief moment, his eyes softened. He remembered her years ago, laughing in a cheap apartment, wiping soap from her arms after scrubbing office floors. Back then, she was a cleaning lady who believed kindness could fix anything. But when he, a rising millionaire CEO, had offered her a contract marriage, she'd signed it. She didn't want his money. She wanted to believe he still had a heart. Jason straightened his cuffs, forcing the memory away. "The doctors said your condition's stable. Stop dramatizing." Emily coughed, a deep, painful sound that shook her entire body. He looked away, almost annoyed by the reminder of her fragility. "You weren't here this morning," she whispered when the coughing stopped. "Dr. Harris said I might not have much time left. I wanted to talk to you before—" He interrupted sharply. "I had meetings. You're talking to me now. What is it you need to say?" Her gaze met his, calm and unwavering. "You know what's strange? The closer I get to dying, the more I remember who you used to be. The man I married wasn't cruel, just lost." He exhaled sharply, crossing his arms. "Emily, please, don't start." "I recorded something," she said quietly, "for when I'm gone. Maybe then you'll actually listen." His grip tightened around his phone. "What did you record?" Her eyes closed, her breathing shallow. "You'll find out soon enough," she whispered. "And when you do, you won't be able to buy your way out of it." Jason stood frozen, the silence around him thicker than the air itself, the weight of her words settling deep inside him like a storm waiting to break. The next morning, Jason arrived at the hospital later than usual. He told himself it was because of traffic, but deep down, he just didn't want to face her. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime, revealing the long corridor bathed in sterile light. The scent of antiseptic mixed with something faintly sweet, lilies maybe, from the bouquet a nurse had left by Emily's door. When he entered the room, the air felt heavier. Emily was asleep, her breathing shallow. the oxygen machine humming softly beside her. On the bedside table lay her phone, its screen black, a small folded note beneath it. Jason frowned. He wasn't used to seeing handwritten things. Everything in his world existed in emails, signatures, contracts. He sat down on the edge of the bed, loosening his tie. "You look peaceful," he murmured, though the words felt strange in his mouth. He glanced at her face, delicate, thinner than ever, and for a moment something twisted in his chest. Guilt? No. Just fatigue, he told himself. But his eyes drifted back to the phone. A small red notification blinked. One video message recorded. He hesitated, thumb hovering over the screen. His heartbeat quickened, his mind racing back to her words the night before. "When you do, you won't be able to buy your way out of it." He unlocked the phone. A passcode appeared. 4 digits. Simple. He tried her birthday. Wrong. Their anniversary. Wrong again. He sat back, exhaling. "What did you hide, Emily?" he muttered under his breath. A soft voice came from the doorway. "She told me to give you something, if she couldn't wake up." Jason turned sharply. A young nurse stood there holding a small USB drive. Her hands trembled slightly as she approached. "She said it was for you, Mr. Carter. She made me promise not to give it to anyone else." He took it, feeling its cold metal against his palm. "When did she give you this?" "Last night, after you left." He looked back at Emily, who still hadn't moved. "You think she knew?" The nurse's eyes softened. "She's been saying goodbye for weeks, sir. You just weren't listening." The words hit him harder than he expected. For a moment his composure cracked. He turned toward the window, his reflection fractured by the city lights beyond the glass. "You can go," he said quietly. When he was alone, Jason plugged the USB drive into his laptop. The screen flickered and Emily's face appeared, smiling faintly, wrapped in a hospital blanket, her eyes tired but steady. "If you're watching this," she began, her voice trembling, "it means I'm gone. But there's something you need to know about how we really met and what I never told you." Jason froze, his breath catching. The sound of her voice filled the silent room, soft, unhurried, but carrying a truth he could already feel, pressing against the edges of everything he thought he knew. On the laptop screen, Emily sat propped against a pile of pillows, her hair pulled back, the faint sound of hospital monitors beeping behind her. Yet her eyes, clear, sharp, painfully calm, seemed to look directly into him. "You never knew the truth about the night we met," her voice began. "You thought I was just another cleaning lady in your office, someone you could ignore or use. But I wasn't there by accident, Jason." He leaned closer, every muscle in his body tense. The hum of the oxygen machine in the real room seemed to echo her recorded breathing. "I applied for that job because I needed money for my sister's surgery," Emily continued. "She was only 17. You remember the fire on 3rd Avenue, the one that destroyed that old apartment building? My family lived there. We lost everything, and I lost her, eventually. But before that, I promised her I'd find a way to save her." Jason's hand tightened around the edge of the desk. He remembered the incident vaguely. He'd even donated publicly afterward, a symbolic gesture for good press. But he hadn't known that one of the victims was her. "I never told you," Emily's voice went on, "but you were the one who owned that building." The words dropped like ice into his chest. "I saw your name on the paperwork," she whispered. "Carter Holdings. You bought the property cheap, ignored the maintenance reports, and sold it months later. The fire started because of faulty wiring. You didn't know me back then, but your choices burned down my home." Jason's breath caught. His reflection stared back at him from the dark screen, pale and motionless. "No," he murmured, shaking his head slowly. "That's not possible." But Emily's voice didn't waver. "I didn't plan to fall in love with you. I only wanted to confront you, to make you see what your empire was built on. But when I saw how lonely you were, how desperate to prove yourself, I thought maybe I could forgive you. Maybe love could fix what money ruined." Her image blinked, a small glitch in the recording, then returned, her eyes shining, tears unfallen. "But it didn't. You built walls even I couldn't climb. You gave me everything except the one thing I ever wanted, your heart." Jason closed the laptop sharply, the screen going black. The room fell silent again except for the rhythmic beeping beside Emily's bed. He turned toward her, his breathing uneven, his face pale under the sterile light. "How you should have told me," he whispered, voice breaking for the first time. But Emily didn't move. He reached for her hand, cold, fragile, and for the first time in years, Jason Carter, multi-millionaire CEO, didn't feel powerful. He felt small, terribly small. Outside, the city lights flickered against the glass, as if the world itself were listening to a confession too heavy for words. Jason stayed in that chair all night, the city outside dimming into dawn. The pale light creeping through the blinds carved thin lines across his face. He hadn't slept. He couldn't. Every word from Emily's recording still echoed in his head. "You owned that building. You burned down my home." He had spent years believing success could bury his past. But now, as the sun rose, everything he'd buried was clawing its way back to the surface. At 7 a.m., the door opened softly. Dr. Harris entered, his voice low, almost careful. "Mr. Carter." "She's still unresponsive. Her body is weak, but she can hear you. You should talk to her." Jason nodded stiffly. He waited until the doctor left before standing. His reflection in the window looked older than he remembered. The flawless man from magazine covers gone, replaced by someone hollow-eyed and shaking. He moved closer to Emily's bed. "I watched the video," he whispered. "I didn't know about the fire. I swear to you, Emily, I didn't know." His voice cracked. "But ignorance doesn't make me innocent, does it?" Her breathing machine hissed softly, her chest rising and falling. No reply came. He sank into the chair again, head in his hands. "You should have told me the truth sooner. Maybe I could have made it right." His words came out dry, heavy with something he wasn't used to, regret. Minutes turned into hours. Nurses came and went. Jason didn't move. At some point, he reached for his phone and opened his calendar. Rows of meetings, investor calls, board lunches. He deleted them all, one by one. By afternoon, he was still there. Then, suddenly, Emily's phone, the one still on the table, lit up again. Another file appeared on the screen. "Message 2, for when he's ready." Jason stared at it, his pulse quickening. His thumb trembled as he tapped play. Emily appeared again in another recording, this one filmed weeks earlier. Her voice was gentler, weaker. "If you've watched the first video," she said, "then maybe you finally see me, not the maid, not the CEO's wife, just Emily." Jason swallowed hard. "I want you to do something," she continued. "Find the people who lived in that building. Some of them still live nearby in shelters. Help them, not with a press release, not with a donation. Help them like a human being. Look them in the eyes. Listen." Her voice faltered. "You once told me power was the only thing that mattered. I used to believe you. Now I know the truth. Love is the only kind of power that heals." The video ended abruptly, leaving Jason staring at his own reflection on the black screen. For the first time in years, his hands shook. He looked at Emily again, her stillness, her silence, and he whispered, almost to himself, "I'll do it. I'll start with the ones I hurt first." Outside, the city roared to life, but in that room something else was awakening. A man learning too late what it meant to be human. 2 days later, Jason stood in front of a run-down building on the Lower East Side. The air smelled of rain and rust. Trash cans lined the cracked sidewalk, and graffiti covered the walls where paint had peeled like old scars. His sleek black car looked absurd parked there, a ghost from another world. He checked the address on his phone. It was the site of the old apartment that had burned down 15 years earlier, the one that took Emily's sister's life. The city had rebuilt part of it, turning it into low-income housing. The rest stood hollow, dark, forgotten. Jason's driver waited silently, but Jason waved him off. "Stay here." His voice was low, almost uncertain. He walked through the narrow hallway that smelled of dust and cheap disinfectant. The elevator didn't work, so he climbed the stairs. On the 3rd floor, a woman in her 60s opened her door, eyes narrowing as she saw him. The tailored coat, the polished shoes, the face she'd seen once on TV. "Jason Carter," she said flatly, her voice sharp as broken glass. "Didn't expect to see you here." He froze. "You know who I am?" "Everyone around here does." She crossed her arms. Your company's logo was on the building papers when it burned. My husband died that night. Jason swallowed hard. I didn't know. Of course you didn't, she snapped. Men like you never know. You just move on to the next skyscraper. He wanted to turn away, to escape back into the comfort of tinted windows and air-conditioned silence. But Emily's words echoed in his head. Look them in the eyes. Listen. So he did. You're right, he said quietly. I didn't know, but I should have, and I came here to change that. The woman stared at him, skeptical, but something in his tone, the exhaustion, the honesty, made her pause. What do you want? To rebuild this place properly, to make it safe, and to help the families who were affected, all of them. Her eyes softened for just a moment before she looked away. You think that'll bring them back? No, Jason admitted, but maybe it'll stop me from pretending I don't owe them something. Silence filled the hallway. Then, slowly, she stepped aside. There's a meeting downstairs tonight. Survivors group. You should come, if you mean what you say. He nodded, his throat tight. I'll be there. As he walked back toward the stairs, his phone buzzed. A notification. New message from Emily's phone. His heart skipped. She couldn't have... He opened it. A short voice note. Her voice, fragile but alive. If you're hearing this, Jason, it means you went there. That means you're finally starting to listen. His hand trembled. Somewhere deep inside, guilt and love began to twist into something else. Redemption. The community center's basement smelled of coffee and old carpet. Folding chairs lined the room in a loose circle. Jason sat quietly among a dozen people, faces aged by loss, by time, by survival. No one spoke to him at first. He didn't blame them. To them, he was the man who built empires from the ashes of their pain. An older man with a prosthetic leg adjusted his cane and looked directly at Jason. You the CEO? Jason nodded slowly. Yes, Jason Carter. A low murmur rippled through the room. Some faces hardened, others turned away. The man exhaled, shaking his head. You got some nerve showing up here. I know, Jason said, and I don't expect forgiveness. I just want to hear your stories. The man studied him for a long time before speaking. My daughter was in that building, 8th floor. We never found her. His voice cracked, rough as gravel. You built a fortune, and we buried memories. Jason's chest tightened. He wanted to apologize, but the words felt useless, small against the weight of what he'd done. Another woman spoke up, her tone brittle. You think one visit fixes anything. You can't just write a check and call it redemption. He met her gaze. I'm not writing a check, I'm rebuilding the building. The right way this time, no shortcuts, no lies. And I'm setting up a trust for the victims' families. You'll control it, not me. The room went quiet. Even the fluorescent lights seemed to hum more softly. The man with the cane leaned forward. Why now, after all these years? Jason swallowed, his throat dry. Because I just lost someone who made me see what I refused to look at. She believed people could change. I'm trying to prove her right. For a moment, silence hung heavy, until the older man nodded once, slowly. Then, start by showing up. Not as a CEO, just as a man. Jason nodded, eyes burning. I will. When the meeting ended, he stepped outside. The night air hit him cold and sharp. The city glowed faintly under the drizzle, headlights streaking past like memories. For the first time in years, Jason walked home instead of calling his driver. Halfway down the block, his phone buzzed again, another message from Emily's account. His pulse quickened. He opened it. A video, shorter than the others. Her voice filled the night through the small speaker. Jason, if you've made it this far, I'm proud of you, but you still don't know everything. There's one last truth you need to face, about me. And when you find it, you'll understand why I forgave you before you ever asked. Jason stopped walking. The rain fell harder, cold drops blurring his vision. He whispered to the dark street. What did you do, Emily? Her message ended with a sound, soft, almost like a sigh, and then silence. And in that silence, Jason realized the woman he had ignored in life was still leading him, step by step, through the ruins of his own soul. Jason barely slept that night. Emily's last message haunted him. There's one last truth you need to face, about me. By morning, the world outside his penthouse windows looked different. The skyline he once admired now felt like a row of silent witnesses. He stood there, coffee untouched, staring at his own reflection, a man who'd traded love for control and was only now beginning to count the cost. He called the hospital. A nurse answered softly, "Mr. Carter, Emily's condition hasn't changed. You should come soon." He didn't ask what she meant by soon, he already knew. When he arrived, the room felt smaller than before, quieter. Emily's face was the same, calm, distant. But something about the air told him time was slipping. He sat beside her, his hands trembling. "I went back to the building," he said quietly. "Met the people who suffered because of me. I'm fixing it, Emily, I'm trying." Her eyes stayed closed, but a single tear slid down her cheek. Jason froze. He hadn't seen her cry in months. "Emily?" Her breathing hitched, shallow but alive. He took her hand, small, fragile, ice cold. "I saw your videos, but you said there was one last truth. What did you mean?" The door opened. A young nurse entered with a folder. "Mr. Carter," she said gently, "there's something Mrs. Carter asked me to give you. She said it was private." Jason stood, confused. "Another message?" The nurse nodded and handed him a sealed envelope. On the front, in Emily's delicate handwriting, were the words, "For Jason, only when you're ready to forgive yourself." His heart pounded as he tore it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a document, a birth certificate. His name wasn't on it, but Emily's was. He frowned, reading again. Then it hit him. Mother, Emily Carter. Child, Grace Miller. Grace. That name. He remembered a young woman from the shelter meeting the night before, 20 years old, with Emily's same green eyes. She'd spoken softly, thanking the group for their donations. He felt the world tilt beneath him. Emily had had a daughter. He stumbled back, staring at her still form on the bed. "Emily, what did you do?" His voice cracked. "Why didn't you tell me?" Another folded note slipped from the envelope. He unfolded it slowly. "Jason, I didn't want revenge. I wanted redemption, for both of us. Grace is not your punishment. She's your chance. I raised her quietly, away from your world, because I wanted her to grow with kindness, not greed. But she deserves to know her father, the man I always believed was still buried somewhere inside you." Jason's hands shook violently. "Oh, God," he whispered. The monitor beside Emily's bed beeped softly, steady but slowing, as if echoing the truth she'd just delivered. The kind of truth that tears a man apart before it sets him free. Jason sat frozen beside Emily's bed, the birth certificate still trembling in his hands. The paper felt heavier than it should, like it carried not just ink but years of silence. Grace. The name pulsed in his mind, echoing through every hollow part of him. He looked at Emily's motionless face, his voice breaking. "You had a daughter, our daughter, and you kept her from me?" The monitor hummed quietly, indifferent to his shock. Emily's breathing was shallow, each exhale fragile as glass. He stood, pacing across the room. "Why would you hide something like that?" His words cracked with disbelief. Was it because of who I was, because I wouldn't have cared? He stopped himself, shaking his head. "No, you knew I wouldn't have been ready." He turned back toward her, guilt crashing through him like a wave. "You were right. I wasn't ready for anyone to need me. I didn't even know how to love you properly." The nurse peeked through the doorway but didn't enter. She could see the devastation in his posture, the once powerful man unraveling in silence. Jason dropped into the chair again, pressing his forehead to Emily's hand. "I met her, Emily. I met Grace. I didn't even realize it was her. She looked at me and smiled, like you used to. She thanked me for coming to the meeting." He swallowed hard. "And I didn't see it. My own daughter. And I didn't see it." Tears rolled down his face now, quiet and raw. "You always said love wasn't about money or control or owning anything. You said love was presence." His voice broke completely. "I never gave you that. And now I'll never get the chance." The room was so still that even the hum of the fluorescent light seemed softer, as if the building itself was holding its breath. Jason pulled the chair closer to the bed. "If you can hear me," he whispered, I swear to you, I'll find her, I'll tell her everything, I'll make sure she knows the kind of woman her mother was. Then, as if responding to his promise, Emily's fingers moved, barely, brushing against his palm. Jason froze. Emily? Her eyes fluttered open for a moment, unfocused but filled with something deep and unspoken. Her lips parted, and a faint sound escaped. Grace. Jason leaned closer. She's safe, Emily. She's beautiful. You'd be proud. A tear slipped from her eye. Her chest rose one last time, and then slowly fell, quiet as a sigh. The monitor let out a long, steady tone. Jason's world went silent. He pressed his forehead to her hand, the same hand that once reached across the emptiness he'd built between them. And in that silence, the man who'd once measured life in profits finally understood what true loss cost. The funeral was small, just close friends, hospital staff, and a few faces Jason didn't recognize. It was raining, the kind of steady, relentless rain that blurs everything it touches. Jason stood beneath a black umbrella, watching the casket lower into the ground, the sound of the ropes creaking over the steady rhythm of falling water. He didn't speak. He couldn't. Every word he'd ever said to Emily felt meaningless now. Too late. Too small. When the last shovel of earth hit the coffin, the sound hollow and final, he closed his eyes and whispered something only the rain could hear. I'm sorry. After everyone had gone, he stayed by her grave. The marble stone was simple, just her name, her birth year, and 3 words he'd chosen himself. She loved anyway. The next day, Jason drove back to the same community center where he'd first met Grace. He didn't tell her who he was. He couldn't. Not yet. He wanted to see her as Emily had seen her, freely, without the shadow of his guilt. Grace was there, setting up chairs for a charity event. Her movements were quick, graceful, almost familiar. She looked up and smiled when she saw him. Mr. Carter, right? You came back. He nodded. Yeah, I wanted to help again. That's good, she said softly. My mom always said when you lose someone, the best way to honor them is to keep doing good. She taught me that before she stopped herself, blinking quickly. Anyway, she was the strongest person I knew. Jason's chest tightened. She sounds a lot like someone I once knew. Grace smiled faintly. You'd have liked her. He swallowed hard, forcing the tremor from his voice. I think I already do. They worked side by side that afternoon, packing food boxes, laughing occasionally. Each time Grace spoke, Jason saw pieces of Emily in her, the compassion in her eyes, the stubborn kindness in her tone, the quiet strength in her silence. At one point, she glanced at him. You remind me of my mom's old boss, she said. She used to clean offices for a company called Carter Holdings. Said her boss was brilliant but cold. Guess money does that to people. Jason froze. Yeah, he said softly, looking down. It does. Grace tilted her head. But she said he wasn't all bad. She said she believed someday he'd remember what really mattered. Jason met her eyes. For a brief second, he saw Emily standing there, smiling through her daughter's face. He wanted to tell her the truth, that she was his child, that her mother had loved her more than life itself. But his voice wouldn't come. Instead, he whispered, she was right. And in that moment, as Grace smiled back, Jason felt something shift inside him. Not forgiveness, not yet, but the fragile beginning of peace. Weeks passed. The city had started to bloom again, cherry blossoms dusting the sidewalks, sunlight reflecting off wet pavement after spring rain. Jason found himself walking more now, taking the subway, breathing air he used to consider too ordinary. It was as if Emily's voice still whispered in his ear, guiding him through a world he had never really seen, until she was gone. At Carter Holdings, things had changed too. The marble floors still shone, but the tone inside the building was different. Jason had sold off the luxury division, redirecting millions toward affordable housing projects, starting with the rebuilt apartments on 3rd Avenue. A plaque now hung in the lobby, in memory of those lost, in honor of those who loved anyway. He visited often, not as a CEO, but as a man who once caused the fire and was now helping others rise from its ashes. People no longer looked at him with fear or admiration. They looked at him with understanding. It was the first kind of respect that had ever felt real. One afternoon, Grace arrived at the new building. Jason had invited her, telling her only that it was something her mother would have wanted. She stood in front of the plaque, her hand trembling slightly as she read the inscription. "She loved anyway," Grace whispered. That was what Mom used to say about everything. About people even when they didn't deserve it. Jason smiled softly. "She said the same to me." Grace turned to him. "You knew her well, didn't you?" He hesitated, the truth pressing hard against his ribs. "Better than I deserved to." She studied him, something flickering in her expression. Curiosity, recognition. "There's something about you, I don't know, it's strange." Jason looked down, his voice low. "Maybe it's because your mother taught me how to be human." They stood in silence, sunlight pouring through the new glass windows that overlooked the city. Grace slipped her hand into her pocket and pulled out a small locket. "This was hers," she said, opening it. Inside was a faded photo. Emily, younger, smiling, and beside her, Jason, unaware the picture had ever been taken. Grace blinked. "That's you." Jason's breath caught. "Yes," he whispered. "It is." The truth settled between them, quiet, unspoken, but undeniable. Grace's eyes filled with tears. "She wanted me to know you, didn't she?" Jason nodded slowly. "She wanted us both to have a second chance." Grace stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him. He froze for a moment, then held her tightly, the way he wished he'd held Emily when there was still time. Outside, the wind carried the scent of spring through the open door, and for the first time, Jason Carter didn't feel like a millionaire or a man seeking forgiveness. He felt like a father, and a soul finally at peace. Sometimes love doesn't shout. It whispers through the quiet things we almost miss. Jason Carter spent half his life chasing power, and the other half trying to escape the emptiness it left behind. Emily didn't leave him with money or revenge, she left him with a mirror. And in that mirror, he finally saw the man he was meant to be. He rebuilt what his ambition had destroyed. He found the daughter he never knew existed. And in her he found Emily again. Not in her face, but in her kindness, her grace, her unshakable belief that broken people can still be made whole. It wasn't wealth that saved Jason. It was love. Quiet, enduring, forgiving love. The kind that teaches us that redemption isn't found in the past, but in what we choose to do with what's left of our future. Emily's voice may have faded, but her message still lingers, that even in the darkest moments, love is the only legacy that truly lasts. Thank you for staying with us until the end of this heart-touching story. Tell us in the comments which part moved you the most. Subscribe and turn on the bell to receive more stories that inspire and transform. Leave a like if you believe in the invisible strength of dignity and family. And above all, thank you for being part of this community that believes in stories with soul. And before you go, watch the story I leave here on the left. I'm sure it will also move you and make you reflect.